Okay, all right. So we are now streaming on YouTube Live. We used to do this on Twitch, but um, better put my. I bet you guys can hear me a lot better now, right?
Oh yeah, a lot better.
So we are live streaming on YouTube today. We are not doing anything with LinkedIn, and we're not doing anything with Twitch. Um, I hope we get back to doing some stuff on Twitch, but it was just too much for me to work on this week. So, but we are streaming on YouTube Live, and I find that interesting because we might be able to change our meetings to that. But welcome everybody to this amazing Beer and Donuts holiday celebration that we have done now. This is the fourth year. And we have known some of you now for 4 years. It's amazing to think about it like that, but it's true. We started this journey at the end of 2019, and we started building the community in 2020. So I believe we had our first holiday party in 2021 or 2020. So this is our fourth year. So thank you everybody for being here for us all this time. And we've made some amazing progress. And today I'm going to go over some of that because we should. But, let's just give it a minute and before I go through this and just let everybody chat. So, Sergio, what have you been up to? We haven't seen you in a while. Sergio, did you get shy? Really?
You are on mute.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, I was looking for the food. Sorry, can you repeat me?
yeah. So what have you been up to? We haven't talked to you in a while.
Oh
How's
yeah.
life treating you?
Oh man, I've been like trying to a lot of stuff to be honest. I think the challenge for this year was like connect work with like open space. Because like I was struggling a lot to be present on Ortelius because of work. So I tried to do work open source, bring together. That made me like try new things. Other spaces more related to platform and apps. But well, in short, this year I started doing like public presentations and I applied to CNCF ambassador and everything goes well. I get accepted, and I will say that I'm happy like the initial challenge from this year has been made. and for Ortelius, always Ortelius is on my heart. Even more, one of my presentation that I'm really proud is how to start in a community, and that is my story in Ortelius. And I am in sharing at least in 2 places and 2 Kubernetes community days, and it's a very good story. And I always say I don't know many communities, but I know this is an awesome community. And always when I come back to Ortelius, I feel like home. Even if we don't speak like month, always is like having a good conversation and having a friendly conversation. So that gives me like the insight to share that for more people. So happy for that, and I'm happy for being here, even if I'm not so active, but it still is a very important thing for me.
Thank you. Well, we miss you, but we realize your life has gotten busy and it happens, right? I mean, I'm not sure if Utkarsh is on today, but he went off and worked on his master's degree and then he showed back up. He's never really left, but life does get in the way sometimes, and open source communities should understand that. The difference between the Ortelius open source community and a lot of others is that we don't have a prime like an IBM or an Apple or Microsoft paying their developers to write open source. We are truly an open source community. I don't know how many are like that. Jenkins started that way where, well, in some ways maybe they didn't. I'm not sure. I think Kosuke built Jenkins and then they may have started paying him to support it. But it started more of a global, really community of developers. So we're trying to follow that model, and I'm so happy that we have been able to do that. So we are doing a shorter program today. We're going to go over the committer recognitions. I'm going to go over a year in review. And then there's 2 videos we're going to do. One's more of a demo and another is a tutorial. I'm gonna I'm gonna actually walk through. Recorded a video and just walk through the uh, our fast track tutorial that we have published, and then Steve's going to go through what you need to do to make sure you have your CI/CD pipeline connected, which is an important topic. This year we're really going to be, next year the Jenkins plugin is going to be the most important thing that we can get delivered out there. So understanding just the basics and just connecting it to the CI/CD pipeline, but then there'll be another step where there'll be a Jenkins plugin. So that's what we're going to be working on. But let's talk about what we did in 2024, because we've done it quite a bit. We connected OpenSSF scorecard to Ortelius. So now we're serving as a dashboard. We're showing open source package level OpenSSF scorecard scores. We're showing it at the component level and then at the application level. So we're tracking it at 3 levels. And if you haven't seen that, I am going to be working on a demo for it through the holiday season. But here it is at the component level. So for this component, we are, as I like to say, drinking our own champagne. This is one of our microservices, this dependency package. And you can see that we've achieved in our OpenSSF scorecard 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 items that we have to be able to achieve. Now, this is an application version of that information, and it pulls the information for the packages. So this information can be seen at the component level and at the application level based on the SBOM. And you can see that these like alternatives and this Amazon Linux repo, they don't have a scorecard yet. So we're going to be exposing packages that are not using OpenSSF scorecard. And I find that that's going to be an interesting bit of information that we can provide back to the OpenSSF, is that if there are actually open source developers who are trying to achieve this OpenSSF scorecard. We also did more integration with OSV Dev. This was in an effort to do a better job of providing in real time vulnerability scanning so that it's done after the static build step. So we added this continuous vulnerability scanning based on the SBOM. So if we go back over here, if we take this SBOM data, we go and we actually scan OSV Dev to see if this particular package has any new vulnerabilities. And if it does, we report on it. So this information, when you go into the dashboard, is in real time. This wasn't a static snapshot at the time that the container was created. It is a real-time view. It scans it every 10 minutes. So recently, when I was doing the demo, a high-risk vulnerability showed up in one of our packages that we're using. So I guess we're going to have to work on that. But it's real time, and that's the important part, because what we want to be able to do is provide this information to the development community so they don't have to go hunt for it themselves. And I would like to see maybe in the next year, when a new vulnerability shows up, that we go and report it to their favorite Discord channel or their Slack channel. So they don't even have to open up Ortelius. They just get it reported by Ortelius. So it's something to think about. We did some massive documentation updates, and there were people that have gotten badges this year because they helped with doing this massive documentation update. We went through and we really scrubbed the data, made sure that everything was current. So thank you all for helping with that. It is a lot of work, documentation. I think that we could probably figure out ways to do it a little easier with some of the AI that is coming out, and that may be something else we want to think about for next year. And we did 22 blogs in total, which is about 1 a month. And I'm really proud that we're getting 1 a month for blogging. And there's going to be more to blog about, though. We blogged a lot about where our heart is. In particular, Sasha did this epic contribution on baking a Raspberry Pi. So if you are interested in learning more about platform engineering, these 7 blogs really walk you through how to set up your environment, not just with Ortelius, but with many different types of tools. You do have to have a Raspberry Pi. I don't think that they're that expensive, but it's something to think about if you want to learn more about platform engineering, because he did a great job on these. I can't say how amazed I was with the work he put into walking everybody through this process. And then we did an amazing first Secure Chain Con. And Sergio, you must meet Julia Elizabeth, because she is your rival when it comes to doing amazing artwork. And she did most of the artwork for Secure Chain Con, and she's technical. So thank you for the help on this. We had some really great contributors. We had Carolyn Wong spoke. She talked about offensive and defensive strategies in cybersecurity, which made me really think about what we're doing with Ortelius. I feel like Ortelius is more of a defensive strategy. We are more of the sword instead of the shield. If you want to understand more about what she's talking about and how we can kind of think of cyber ops in terms of offensive and defensive strategy, she did a great job of explaining it. We had a really good discussion on actionable metrics and metadata. This is going to become more and more important as we have started gathering more information, like the SBOM data, like the scorecard data, what kind of reporting we want to start showing, and what the open source community wants to do in terms of furthering the understanding of a component's application security posture. That topic is becoming more and more important as new tools come up and new standards come up. We also had contributions from folks we've never met before. We had one of the Neil Freedy, I hope I didn't say his name wrong. He did a really great job of talking about the supply chain security that Google's offering. We had TestifySec talk about in toto. And we also had some really interesting discussions from Cisco around DevSecOps for network operations. So we had some really good sessions. And I have to give a shout out to Sime Safter, because he really encouraged us to bring more people into the community and did a great job of doing that. Okay, this is what we all come here for, is who got badges. Some of you have already know, because I sent badges out late last night. So first of all, I just want to review what these groups are. So Ambassador Awards are really our DevRel community. These folks have been doing work around outreach, adoption of the product, education, demos, special events, and just in outreach to the community as a whole. So they've achieved some level of recognition in this area. And our 2 new ones is Brendan Walsh, who worked on some blogs, and Jesse Q. Thank you so much to both of you for stepping up and getting started in this process. Your blogs were great. Jesse did work on the OSV Dev and the SBOM integration we've done, and Brendan did some work on FinOps. And Jing jumped up from bronze to silver. So I'm guessing that Jing will be a gold ambassador by the end of next year, because she's been super, super helpful in really getting the word out. And thank you, Tony, for bringing Jing on, because she's a great asset. Okay, the next one are champions. These are our programmers. These are everybody who's doing work on documentation, coding, opening tickets, opening up issues, closing issues, reviewing pull requests, all the hard work that's done behind the scenes. And we had a whole host of new contributors in this area. Some of you on this may not have gotten a badge yet, because I don't have your email. Please send me an email, and I've connected with you so that you get an email, from me to get your badge. But I want to thank everybody in this quadrant here for stepping up, getting your first some kind of first pull request in, or did work on documentation or code, or open to issue. It's great to see so many people as new contributors. And Jesse Q did enough that he got himself as a bronze level, not just a first encounter, but he stepped up to the bronze level. So again, thank you, Jesse, for spending some time, probably through October. You did a lot of work in this for the for Hacktoberfest, and you know when you're young and you have other things to do, I think it's awesome that you've contributed to this. Okay, now we have legends. Legends are people who do really well in both categories. It's the highest level achievement because you have to be doing DevRel as well as coding, and there haven't been too many of us who've gotten there. Utkarsh and Sasha. Utkarsh was our first legend. He achieved it in December 23, and Sasha wasn't too far behind him, achieving it in May of 2024. And now we have our next legend. Of course, Jesse got bronze because he achieved both a bronze in being an ambassador and a champion. So that brings him up to being a bronze legend. And finally, Arvind. Arvind, congratulations for getting to this level. You know, we have met many people in the 4 years that have worked on this project. Arvin was probably the least experienced and just said, hey, I want to do this. I want to learn more. And he has taken advantage of the open source community in a way that's exactly how you should do it. We have benefited from it so much, and he has benefited from it. If anybody, I'm sure anybody on this call right now who has worked with Arvind over the course of time, since he started about 2 years ago, we can all attest to how much his technical skills, how they've improved, and how much he's learned, and how much more valuable he is to us today than he was when he first started. So congratulations, Arvind, for achieving this. This is hard, and you're in a room with some really technical folks like Sasha and Utkar, so you should be very proud of yourself. And
Thanks
I
a
just want
lot.
to, absolutely, and I just want to remind everybody why we are called Ortelius. Ortelius, Abraham Ortelius built the first global world atlas, and he did that through an open source community because he asked all these cartographers to bring together their information so that they could come up with kind of the least common denominator, trying to identify what's probably the most accurate, and he published that. So he is still our fearless leader. And thank you everybody for the hard work. And let's hear something from Arvin. Arvin, tell us, how did you make it to Gold Legend? Because it's not an easy task.
So yeah, I joined Ortelius when I was in first year of college.
Did
This
you?
was like end
So
of
how
the
long
first year.
so how long has it been? 3 years or 2 years?
It's probably more than 3 years. Let me
Okay.
check.
Oh, that's okay. I thought you started with us maybe
Uh,
in late 2021.
I joined this Discord server on 23 July 2020.
Did you? Well, you have come a
Yes,
long way. And when do you graduate from college? Or
like
have
in
you?
June.
In June.
In June, yeah, this year. So like in the first 5 6 months, I just saw what how they all are working. Because I was very new. DevOps is a new term to me. I was in a first year college student. Then I started interacting with Sasa, Utker. I started attending meetings, and then I slowly start taking small talks. Started with the documentation, then coding, and yeah, it's a journey. Learned a lot. I enjoy it a lot. I am learning from the one of the some of the best minds in this community, and I think they are some of the best minds in the whole software industry that I have ever met. So
Well, we are really,
I'm
really,
really,
I personally am very proud of you, Arvin. I really am. And
I'm really grateful.
I am going to promote Jesse to panelist. So Jesse, this is what can happen if you continue doing what you've been working on. Um, you're also young and just getting into this business, and you've done some great work during the Hacktoberfest. So why don't you introduce yourself? I know you haven't been in meetings, so why don't you just introduce yourself and say hello? Hey, there's Sasha.
So I'm Jesse. I started my first year of IB. I guess for me is I just wanted to sort of like gain exposure into sort of, well, open source and sort of like gain experience in working with, of course, like experts such as like yourselves in the field, and I guess just trying to meet new people, and yeah.
Well, we are all here for you. This community is, why it has so much heart is because everybody does root for each other in terms of their careers. Sasha's another one. Sasha has improved his technical skills started skyrocketing when he had, a community to start asking questions to and reaching out to. I I can't even explain how much Arvin has improved. So this is a really, really great way for you as a young technologist to get involved. And Arvin will be happy to help you. So he can be your mentor. And that's when you
Yeah.
get to a legend status at the gold level, that then you become a mentor. So Arvin, please make sure you reach out to Jesse. Maybe you guys could share information privately so that he knows how to get in touch with you. And Jesse, you could always reach out to Steve or myself or anybody on this call to continue your efforts, because we love having you.
Yep. Thanks. Really appreciate it.
Anybody else? Hey, Raj, good to see you. Any thoughts out there
I've
from
got some
anybody for
thoughts.
either one of them?
I,
Good.
I can tell you, no one has to be afraid because you know how I started? I started breaking things. I broke Git really a lot. Oh, Tracy. Oh, Steve.
He did.
Yeah.
I don't know if he broke it more than me, but he broke it a lot.
That's the
I don't know.
fast track.
Yeah, that's so much track, exactly. And Steve was like, no worries. Just do this, do that, do this, do that. I was like, how does Steve know all those commands out of his head? It's insane.
It's insane. It
It's
is.
insane. We don't need AI. You just need Steve. I'm
Yeah.
telling you. Yeah,
If Steve is in the room, it's all going to be okay.
that's all good. Yeah, exactly. LLM has nothing on Steve.
And I want to recognize about Arvin, and I think maybe there is a lot of people with a lot of capabilities and abilities too. I want to remarkable how Arvin, like, if he reached out people, he talked with us, he was afraid, but I still reach out people, ask for things, ask for a meeting, maybe for advice, something like that. So I think that's a spirit. You don't need to be as very smart people. You need to be brave, reach out, have the talks, and I think that's is amazing. I know that a lot of times I couldn't have enough time to support Arvin, but at least the conversation we have it was very good, and I'm happy he tried and never leave an idea alone, and he reached it. So that, I think, will be like how the things can work here in Ortelius, and not always works in every community. So here maybe we are not the most active, but we are very supportive. If somebody needs help, we are there. We are going to be there. Even if I'm not in the meeting, if you send me a message, you want to have like check something, I'm going to be there. So hopefully we have a lot of more people next year having this interaction.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Arvin,
I'll
if you
say
know
so.
anybody at university and they're freshmen, be sure to reach out and say, hey, this is a good way to get involved.
Yeah, I already invited Raj. We were
That's
like
true.
buddies, and
Yeah, like Arvind was my co-worker and he was like probably the youngest guy in the tech team and he was leading the R&D team. And like I had just heard he had joined as an intern, he didn't know much in the first, second year. And then he was leading a team of people who were like way older, like 5, 6 years elder to him. So yeah, I was just talking to him when he was a co-worker of mine and said I always wanted to do open source. I could never figure out where, how, and what to do. So he was kind enough to add me here maybe a year back. And yeah, I've learned a lot. I also got my first contribution. So thanks.
Yes, and everybody, Raj was our Halloween mascot this year. I blogged about Halloween and used Raj's picture wearing a balloon alien on his head. So that's who that was.
Hi.
And just as a reminder to everybody, the approach that we typically take is just do it in small, little incremental bites. So whether that's just either dealing with the documentation or coding or just understanding, how Git works, uh, all those things we just take in a little bit at a time and keep on building upon the previous successes. So don't be afraid just to try something. You can never break anything. I could always come in and fix it in some way. So never worry about breaking stuff and just give everything a try. That's the advice I have for everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, Steve can always fix it. I promise you. I learned
Yeah,
that about him.
me too. I tested it. The Steve way works.
Yeah, so don't worry about breaking things. It's that's probably the most important thing we can tell people is don't worry about breaking things because it always can be backed out. It can always be fixed. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and I am going to, unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about, I do have one thing that we need to talk about is now we're starting to get you folks who are jumping up on these levels. It would be really great to get some of us in some of these talks. Utkarsh is submitted for KubeCon. Let's keep our fingers crossed. It's hard to get in some of those bigger conferences, but I want to encourage everybody just to try. I, I submitted my name for being on the board of the OpenSSF and I got elected. So yay. I didn't think that was going to happen, but sometimes it does. So I would encourage you all to start submitting for some of these, and I'll try to do a better job in the our outreach meetings to make sure we all know when we should submit for these. But please, if we're in an outreach call or if you have that information, be sure and post it out on Discord because we need to get some of us in front of a larger audience. That will be important moving forward because we have more than Ortelius now is in a state that we do have a minimal viable product out there. So adoption will be more and more important. And the topic around what we're doing around vulnerabilities and real-time vulnerability detection is super important. And I think that people will understand that, and especially if we have something like that built into a plugin to Jenkins. So they just have to go into Jenkins and we're publishing that information for every single workflow that gets pushed across. And if we're talking to them and letting them know new vulnerabilities are hitting their deployed code in a Discord chat or in a Slack chat. So, or we could even create an issue in GitHub for them, right? If we knew their repo. So those are some of the things we should be thinking about. And those are actually, they may sound like hard coding exercises, but I don't think they will be. It'll require a microservice like a Discord microservice, a Slack microservice, or a GitHub microservice. Okay, so on that note, I am going to, we're going to try something new and interesting. We are going to try running. So you guys are going to have to help me and let me know if this is actually working. I am going to share my screen again. If I can find my share. I think I share my screen. And then I'm going to run this tutorial. Welcome to Ortelius. In this tutorial, we were going to walk through the sign-up process and then take a quick 15-minute tour. Ortelius is a continuous vulnerability management platform designed to help you find and respond to vulnerabilities as they come through the software supply chain in real time. Code-level vulnerabilities pose an escalating threat to your software assets. Gartner predicts these threats will triple by 2025. According to Sonatype, 512,000 vulnerabilities were reported in 2024, projecting a staggering 1.5 million potential vulnerabilities by 2025. Ortelius is a continuous vulnerability management system that functions as a digital immune response. Ortelius helps you identify new vulnerabilities in real time as they are reported through the software supply chain. And unlike our competitors, Ortelius scales effortlessly to complex environments without the need for endpoint container scanning agents across your infrastructure. Ortelius integrates into the CI/CD pipeline where this data is generated. And Ortelius has a SaaS version, so you can use the SaaS. And in fact, we'll be signing up for the SaaS today. So to get started, go to our documentation, go to the Ortelius user guide, and the free SaaS sign-up and quick tutorial. In this process, you will be provided with a sign-up form. You will enter basic information, like your company, which will map inside of Ortelius to what's called a domain. Your project, which will map to a project in Ortelius. Your first and last name, your email, phone numbers, and a username. And of course, passwords. Once you complete the form, you will be redirected to the Ortelius console. This console is hosted by DeployHub. You can find that link directly from the Ortelius website where it says SaaS Login. For this tutorial, you will select the global open source domain. This is not your domain that was created when you signed up, but an example domain where the Ortelius community actually manages Ortelius's vulnerabilities and tracks its SBOMs. In this tutorial, you will explore components, view a component's SBOM and vulnerabilities. You will then explore applications and view application vulnerabilities. And then you will generate an application SBOM. And finally, we will search for an OS package across all deployed endpoints. So first, exploring components. Components are artifacts, binaries, files, or any deployed artifact. Components are assigned to applications. This assignment allows for the aggregation of data from the components up to the applications that consume them, providing a unified software bill of material report and application security posture reports. From the left-hand side of the menu, select Components. This will take you to a list view of the components assigned to the selected domain. Using the filter option, choose Global Open Source Linux Foundation to view all of the components consumed by the Ortelius open source project. You can sort components by completed, Completed status indicates the components have been deployed to end users. From the component list view, click on completed to sort. Because you are viewing real-time data, the items in this list will change based on the last update from the Ortelius community. Search the latest version of MS component-crud. You will see a version label such as main 1.0 834 GAB D540. We're going to select that. The component detail page shows you the component's version security profile, impact assessment, and DevOps configuration. For every update of a component, Ortelius uses an internal versioning engine that captures configuration and security changes to the component. When you view a component's details, the first attribute you will see is the component's software bill of material report, or SBOM, and its real-time vulnerabilities. When a component build execute, Ortelius will generate a software bill of material report using the CI/CD command line integration. Once gathered, Ortelius cross-references the SBOM results to known vulnerabilities in real time. While the SBOM is a static view, the vulnerabilities are updated regularly. Ortelius continuously scans OSVDev for new known vulnerabilities for all of the packages in the SBOM. Notice OpenSF scorecard information. Ortelius uses the Git repo and Git commit from the CI/CD command line integration to gather OpenSF scorecard data on the component itself, as well as any OpenSSF scorecard information assigned to the package. So in this line, annotated types is a package, open source package that's being consumed by Ortelius, does not have any scorecard information. And this area, this is the scorecard for the Ortelius component itself, our MS comp item CRUD component. Impact assessment. Every microservice, every service that you create is going to create an impact. We track how this one component impacts the organization as a whole. In this case, we can see that Ortelius, this version of this component, is used by 2 versions of Ortelius. We also provide a graphical map. The component DevOps details section shows you additional information about the component, such as the owner, the contact information, build details, Git repo information, Helm chart information if used, and any key value configurations that may be used to deploy the object. Now you can view previous versions of a component by selecting the previous versions. So it shows you all the previous versions that have been created in the past. So each one of these is created by an execution of a workflow. Let's go explore applications. An application is a collection of components that together form a complete software solution. Ortelius handles the logical application by aggregating component data to the application level. The application features displays all logical applications with their associated components and their combined security profile. Each time a new component version is released through the CI/CD pipeline, a new application version is created. Ortelius uses an internal versioning engine that captures configuration, DevOps, and security data for every update. Select the Ortelius application by clicking on the checkbox and run a compliance report. This report is a summation of data gathered across your CI/CD pipeline, including a compliance checklist for a variety of security checks and environment inventory for the application version. If used, Ortelius integrates with Sonar, Cube, and Veracode for more security details. Next, select the Export SBOM. This report is a federated software bill of material report that aggregates all component SBOM data, including any known vulnerabilities at the time the SBOM was explored. This federated SBOM has detailed information about each component that the logical application is consuming. It also reports on any critical risk packages, high-risk packages, medium and low-risk packages that were found at the time the report was executed. Now, important in vulnerability management is to understand if a vulnerability has been found, where it's running across all of your software infrastructure. Let's search on iDNA. Ortelius allows you to search through all applications for open source packages rapidly so you can respond to vulnerabilities and understand precisely where your exposure to the vulnerability is running. This report shows what build number was used when that package was consumed. It shows the components that rely on that package, and it shows the application that's consuming the component. From here, let's look at an application's security profile and details. The application detail page shows you the application security profile, impact assessment, and DevOps configuration of that application. Remember, an application is a collection of components with data aggregated from each component to the application level. How these versions get created: each time a component that this application consumes is updated along the DevOps pipeline, a new version of the component gets updated because it has a new version of the SBOM and new vulnerabilities. So just like our components, we have a list of packages that this application consumes, which is going to be an aggregation of all the packages from all of the components, normalized so the data is not repeated unless it's a different version. And if we had an OpenSF scorecard, we would show that. In addition, we show all the vulnerabilities that were found from the collection of SBOMs. We show the deployed environments, we show the component dependencies, we show its inverted blast radius, and as with the components, we show DevOps details. You've now covered the basic objects and how Ortelius manages vulnerabilities across the CI/CD process from code to cloud. There are many other features of Ortelius that we did not cover on this short test drive. In your next steps, you might want to explore how to connect your CI/CD pipeline to Ortelius and add SBOM collection to your DevSecOps process. In your next step, you may want to explore how to connect your CI/CD pipeline to Ortelius and add SBOM collection to your DevOps process. Go to the Ortelius YouTube channel, find demos and contributor tips, and watch the Ortelius command line integration for CI/CD data. Thank you for your interest in Ortelius and your commitment to continuously identifying new vulnerabilities running across the software supply chain. All right, does anybody have any, Sasha, were you finally able to see it, but you couldn't see it through YouTube Live? Is that what was happening?
Yeah, no. I can watch it perfectly on Zoom, right, when you share it. But I've had this a lot. I've had this a lot with not just Ortelius. It's a YouTube thing that I don't know if it's an Africa thing or they block your IP or something, but it'll just say this has been blocked by either the Google administrator or something, right? Weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I get it with local stack too. I try and join their webinars and stuff, and I can't see anything because it just says it's blocked. Yeah, this video is restricted. Please check the Google Workspace administrator and all the network administrator restrictions. Weird. Yeah.
Well, while we were doing that, we had two additional people join. Brian Dawson is here. Hey, Brian. And Rajat Jain, who is one of our new contributors who got a first encounter badge. Rajat, you want to introduce yourself and say hello to the team? I think he's rejoining right now as a panelist, so give him a minute. He is now a panelist. So Rajat, you just need to unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Congratulations, and thank you for getting a first encounters.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. I was just setting up. It's a night over here, so I was just, being a little relaxed in
I
mood.
get
But
that. I
thanks for
get
calling
that.
me, Tracy.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate having new contributors, and we hope that we see you on meetings in the future. Rajat, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Just tell us about yourself.
Firstly, yeah, hi everyone. From here, I think I've already met Steve Tyler already from one of our conversation. But yeah, hi to everyone. I'm Rajat Jain from India. I'm work as maybe a platform engineer, you can say, help setting up our clients with platform engineering and automate their stuff, basically migration and sort of things. So I just got around Ortelius when I was playing around with SBOM reports. I was trying to visualize the components of our SBOM reports and figure out which components connects to what all the applications. And I see one of our repository, LA SBOM ledger something in our Ortelius repo. And though and then I later figured out that it was just created as a demo perspective, and then I connected with Steve basically to get more deep dive into how Ortelius works and how it connects with our system. And Steve gave me pretty much very helpful insight of how Ortelius works. And so it was just first impression with Ortelius. Yeah, I liked it. It is still in development phase, so I'm happy to contribute more and see how it can grow, and I can grow with it together.
Well, thank you so much. And I know when Steve was talking to you, he said, yeah, he's got to figure this stuff out really fast. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Well,
does anybody want to say, give a welcome to Rajat? Any other?
Welcome, Rajat. Great to have you.
Any advice for a new contributor?
Why so serious? That is that such.
My advice is to ask Steve.
Steve the man. If you want to get trouble, talk with Sasha. If you want to good things, talk with Steve. Yeah,
Well,
that's the thing.
And if you want-
welcome, and go break something before you ask Steve.
Go break
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yes,
So-
that's great advice. It really is, because it means you've really started working at it.
Yeah,
Does
I'll
anybody
definitely
know?
reach out.
Does anybody know the show Third Rock from the Sun? It's an old sitcom from the U.S. Well, the story is that
yeah.
these aliens come down to do reconnaissance of the U.S. and they look like humans. And one of them has psychic connections to what's called the big giant head that gives them all the commands and fixes all their problems. So sometimes I call Steve the big giant head because our family has to get information from the big giant head sometimes to move forward. So never, ever hesitate to ask the big giant head.
Is that where you got that from? Okay, that makes complete sense. Yeah, I get it.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you again, and I'm glad you were able to attend today. And Brian is still out there.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Brian, you want to say anything? Hello? I think he's muted. Well, while he gets that together, I am going to cue us up for the next tutorial. This is a little longer. This is really going to walk through what we need to do to connect the CI/CD pipeline. Now, I want to clarify that's different than running the potential Jenkins plugin. So this particular, the Ortelius command line interface will interface with any CI/CD pipeline. GitHub Actions, Circle CI, Harness, whatever you're using, it'll integrate with. What we want to work on for next year is better supporting our Jenkins community for delivering that information right inside the Jenkins dashboard. So today we're just going to review what the CLI looks like, and I hope by maybe our May party we'll be able to have a full demo on the Jenkins integration that we're going to be working on. So let me cue this guy up. Get back to Zoom. Whoops. In this tutorial, Steve Taylor will show us how to integrate the Ortelius command line interface to support your DevOps pipeline. In order to continuously gather pipeline intelligence, Ortelius must become part of it. Ortelius integrates with tools like Jenkins and GitHub Actions so that it can gather supply chain data based on a single pipeline workflow and start versioning that information over time, including things like SBOMs where vulnerabilities can be found. Steve will first show us how to install the CLI from PyPy. He will then cover how to define your pipeline variables. Once your variables are defined, he'll show you how to create a TOML file and then add your step into your pipeline to run SIFT if you're not already generating an SBOM. This is an optional step, but recommended. He'll also cover how to run the Ortelius CLI to add your component and create applications automatically. You can find the complete documentation for this tutorial at ortelius.io. Go to the documentation, go to the Ortelius user guide, and find it under Integrations, listed as CI/CD support. Each step of the tutorial is outlined in detail so that you can follow along. I hope this helps, and thank you for watching.
So I'm going to install, the CLI actually uses Python, and it's actually, the package is hosted on PyPy. So if we go and do a search for Ortelius here, we'll see that we have the Ortelius CLI and the details about all the flags and stuff like that, and it's basically the README for the CLI that we're going to use. And here's going to be the install. And I actually happen to be using both versions of Python. So I have Python 3 and 2.7, but I'm going to go ahead and do my pip install, Ortelius CLI. And because I probably have an older version, I'm going to tell it to upgrade anyways. So that went out to PyPy and brought down our latest version here of our package. So the 93222 should be the version that we just downloaded from over here. So now I have my local environment all set. We're going to need some code to work with. So I'm going to take a Spring Boot demo, and I'm actually going to fork it, and I'm going to use that as our repo that we're going to pull information from. Now this can be any repository It doesn't have to be a Spring Boot one, but basically we just need something to gather our Git information from. So I already had that forked. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to clone it. So we go back over to our window, do my git clone. All right. So like I said, this is a Spring Boot that has been wrapped up into a Docker file. So if we actually look at the Docker file, we'll see where they actually do the Maven build, create the jar file, and then we go ahead and run with that from that level. You'll see here that we just have the source code down in our lower levels, some test cases. There's nothing to do with our like a Git action, GitHub action, or anything to do with Ortelius. So basically this is just a demo repo that we get to work with. So let's go ahead and go back to our instructions. And one of the things we need to do is to start gathering information between your pipeline and Ortelius is to insert in the CLI command. So one of the things to do that is we're going to actually run this locally to start with. So I'm not going to hook in any like Jenkins file or GitHub action or Google Cloud build at this point. I'm just going to do everything locally to simulate what the pipeline is going to do. And then later on, we'll go ahead and add into a GitHub action to do our actual build process over on when we check in and do things on an actual pipeline. So some of the information that we needed to kind of expose from the pipeline side is going to be the deploy, the URL, the user ID, password, the name of the repository, the image tag, those type of things. We need to go ahead and push over and make available. So I'm going to create a little shell script here, grabbing this information. So if I go back to my Visual Studio, I'll do a new file, dhenv.sh, paste in. And like I said, I'm using, because we signed up with the SASH, the Deploy Hub team, which is basically Ortelius running. I'm going to go ahead and use that URL. My user ID was Spring Demo admin. Oops. And you'll see my super secure password. And I think I'll push this over to my Docker Hub account. And we'll do Spring Boot demo. And we'll just give it an image tag of version 1.0.0. So let me go ahead and save that. And I'm going to actually go back to my command prompt, cd into my Spring Boot demo directory. And let's see what we got here. Yep, it's there. So I'm going to say source dhenv.sh. So if we do environment and sort it, type it through more, we'll take a look at our super secure password and our Docker information that we set up in our image tag. So that's all looks good there. So from there, now we have our basically the information that connect up to Ortelius. One of the things that we need to do is provide to Ortelius the information that we can't derive from the pipeline. And that includes from the Git repo, from the pipeline process itself, from other tools that may be as part of the pipeline. Let's say if you're running like Veracode or something like that, and we want to pass across Veracode results over into Ortelius, we need to do that using a TOML file. So this TOML file basically is going to allow us to define that non-derived data. And some of that's going to be like, what's the name of the application, the version of the application, what do we name our component? Because when we get into a microservices world, we're going to have many microservices that make up a single application. So we're going to have multiple, a component TOML file for every single microservice, basically. So I'm actually going to go here, grab the sample here. We're going to put that in, and we'll do another new file, component.toml. I'm going to put that in. Now, when we signed up, we did the our company name, our project name, and then from there, we need to build that out as part of the domain structure. So I'm gonna go ahead and log back in over on into that account that we created and grab that information. So when we created our highest level, we have global, and then our spring demo, and then our hello world at that level. So that's going to be kind of our domain structure is going to be that lowest level. So that's what I'm going to copy that domain, if I can grab it. And that's going to be part of where we're going to put our application. And so that beginning part is like the folder structure. And now we'll go ahead and call it our Hello World app. And we're going to use version 1. I'm actually going to add a few levels to that. And then we're going to have to tell us where we're going to put our component. The variant, so variants, you can think of that as the feature branch. Next, I'm going to go ahead and give it the component, the microservice itself, a version as well. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of tie it to the application version. So we're going to do v100, and then we're going to take the build number. And this would be the build number coming from the pipeline tool. So we're actually going to, because we're going to run this locally, we're going to stub that out. We're just going to make up a build number for our local test here. And then we're going to take the get SHA. So the -G is just a placeholder. And then we're going to take the short SHA from the Git repo. Other things that we're going to add to this, we're going to go ahead and grab the set the Docker build date, the Docker repo, determine the digest, the image tag. If we have like any service catalog data, like in this case, we're going to use a Discord channel, the service owner, the service email. If we had, like I said, like Veracode information, other metrics that we want to gather and attach to this version of the component, we would go ahead and add on to that attribute list. The attributes can be anything. There are certain ones that we do look for. So if we actually go back over to PyPy here, we'll see that there's a set of attributes that we are actually go ahead and gather and grab automatically. So in the TOML file, I'm not going through and defining every single variable. If we had a chart to deploy this, we would want to put the chart name in there. Some of that information we would want to go ahead and give to Ortelius that we can't derive. You can't really derive the chart very easily, so that's one of those supplied values. Things start with like the Docker and the Git. Most of those we can derive by running commands against the Git repo and Docker commands to find out what's happening on that. Also, if we have a license in that repository, we would go ahead and pull in that license, the README. If there's an open API or Swagger file, we'd want to give that information as well. Again, this is just some of the default information that we gather. You can add anything you want to that key value pair attributes. So let's go ahead and save that. We'll go ahead and build that. Should go pretty quick. So this is your Docker build. Normally would be done in your pipeline process. Here we're just doing it manually to get a Docker image that we can then scan at that level. We can see that we have our image here that we just created 30 seconds ago. So we're actually going to go ahead and scan that image for the SBOM data. In order to do that, we're actually going to use another third-party tool called Sift. Sift is from Encore. They do a pretty good job of scanning images and source code directories and things like that. So I'm going to just go ahead and run the install here. To generate the SBOM, we're going to take the Docker repo and tag. We're going to look at all the layers, and you can scope this just to like the latest layer or the top layers for getting dropping off the ones that you were built from. But we need some data, so we're going to scan all layers, and we're going to output to the CycloneDX format. We can use CycloneDX or the SPDX format. The CycloneDX is, I like it because it's a little bit easier to understand the JSON. It's not as confusing as the SPDX JSON layout. If we go back to Visual Studio, we have our CycloneDX. So we're actually going to go ahead and pass all this information over to Ortelius now. It's a simple command. If we go back to our documentation, we are going to run this command. So we're going to run the DH update comp. We're going to give one of the parameters is going to be our component TOML, and we're also going to give it the JSON file for the SBOM. So that's going to be the one that we're going to run. If you generated it with SPDX, then you'd use the SPDX prefix. Or if you didn't, if you skip that step around the SBOM, then you're just going to go ahead and run this example here. So let's go ahead and run our command. Well, first we need a build number. So if you remember back in our TOML file, we created a build number, or we're going to use a build number. Because we don't have, we're not running in the context of a pipeline at this point, we need to make up a build number. So we're just going to say it's going to be build number 1. One of the next steps we're going to do is we're going to take and resolve all the variables. So anything in the curly brackets is a variable, like the SHA, the branch, all this information. And we're going to go ahead and resolve all that, those details. And this is mainly because we're running locally, but it doesn't hurt to have the extra step of the environment variable resolution. Okay, so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to generate another shell script that is going to resolve a lot of the environment variables. So anything in the curly brackets is an environment variable. The sh, I mean the short SHA, the get branch, the digest, the image tag. We're going to go through and resolve all those variables and make them grab the values from like the Git repo, those type, and Docker to get those variables resolved. In order to do that, we're going to run a simple command line, env vars _sh. You'll see before, or this is going to be env script. It's going to take the TOML file as input, and we're going to create a new shell script. So we found at this level, we have our sh file. So if you go back over to Visual Studio, and we can see all those information like the Git branch, the Docker repo, the license file, all those have been resolved. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to source that in before I run our final step of sending all the information up to Ortelius. So I'm going to source resolved. And now we're going to go ahead and send everything over. And here we're going to do the update comp, again with the component TOML and our SBOM data. So let's give that a go. Okay, we'll walk through this as soon as it finishes. So you'll see that it read the component TOML. So this is the attributes that came from the component TOML. One of the things that did not get resolved was the digest. And the reason for that being unresolved is we did not push the Docker image up to Docker Hub. The only way you get a digest in the Docker world is to actually push it up to a registry and then query the registry about what the digest is. Not going to worry about that now, because when we move over to doing all this in a pipeline process, that variable will actually be resolved because we'll actually push our image somewhere. Next, we created our parent component, and then we created our individual version of our microservice. So this is where we had our version 100, our build number followed by the git SHA. So that was created, and then all the other attributes that we were able to derive. So some of the things that we're able to figure out was like the git commit authors, number of committers on the repo, the lines deleted, those type of things we're able to gather and associate to our microservice version. And finally, we went and added our component version to our new application version. So if we go back over to our team version here, we can see I got our Hello World app and our version 0. And we have our microservice as one of our dependencies, and then the SBOM that's being aggregated up from all of the individual components. So in this case, we only have the one component. So that one component ended up having a lot of dependencies. And we can actually see that one of the dependencies, the YAML, the libyaml, actually has a CVE that we need to address at that level. So if I actually go into the component level, we can see we have our base component followed by our microservice component. And again, we're going to have that same level of detail around the information that we gathered. Like I said, this is where that digest was unresolved. That will get fixed when we actually go ahead and do our plug into a GitHub action. Other things that we were able to drive, the git commit, the repo, the tag, the git URL, we were able to pull in the README file. This service didn't have any Swagger information, so we didn't upload any Swagger. Here's our SBOM data again with our individual vulnerability, the license file that was grabbed, and then additional attributes that we were able to grab. So like I said, the lines added, deleted, total, the repos, details about that information as well. We can see the consuming application is the Hello World app, and we should be able to see our map, our association here at that level. So at this point, we've actually gone through and created a component and an application version in a few short steps within our local environment. Now, our next step is we're going to actually go ahead and do this through a pipeline. Okay, so our next step is going to be creating a GitHub action that will do everything that we did at the command line. So we'll set the environment variables in the action, and then we'll go ahead and run the sift along with the Ortelius CLI commands to upload the information over to Ortelius. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy a file that I've done earlier. just to save some typing, and we'll walk through it. So let me go ahead and copy this over. So let's go ahead and walk through a GitHub action. They're pretty easy. You could just think of it as the steps of things that you would do normally at the command line. So one of the things that we're going to do is whenever anybody pushes to the master branch, we're going to go ahead and run this workflow. So we're going to run it on Ubuntu, and we're going to set these global environment variables. So we're going to set what our Ortelius server is. Like I said, we're using the deploy hub team, which is Ortelius running on our SaaS, our user ID, our super secret password, and we're going to set an environment variable saying that we're going to push over to Quay. So in this case, we're actually going to utilize Quay as our repository versus Docker Hub. So let me make sure we have that set on this side. So we are all set there. One of the first things we're going to do is we're going to check out basically clone the repo. And after we clone the repo, we're going to do a couple kind of like housekeeping things. In the GitHub world, the way you pass things around is through this GitHub env file. So what we're going to do here is we're going to derive the image version from GitHub itself. So the image version will be one of the information that will derive and pass along in the component toml. It's one of those default variables that we're going to go ahead and grab, and we're also going to use the image version environment variable later in this workflow. So this is looking at the GitHub run number, getting the SHA, cutting it down so it's a short SHA instead of the long one, and then we're going to derive the image tag. So this right here is going to determine basically the branch name, which equates to our variant, again, our GitHub run number, and our SHA. And that all gets passed into our environment variable file. Next, we're going to actually just going to set up some Git stuff so it doesn't complain about us doing anything without a user ID or email. So that's just some housekeeping there. Next, we're actually going to log into Quay so we can push our image over to our Quay repository. Again, the user ID password normally would be set like we do here in a secret instead of having exposed in the workflow itself. So we'll actually get flagged about a user ID password from a security scan, but that's okay. We're not worried about that for this demo. Next, we're going to build our image. So this is going to be our registry, our repository. I'm actually going to change this because I want to tag it with hello world, because that's what I have set up on the Quay side. So I'm actually going to tag it slightly different than where I copied this starter action from. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and generate our SBOM. Again, we're going to scan the same image that we just built. So we're going to build and push, and then we're going to go ahead and scan that information. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and do our CLI step. So out of all this, all we're really adding on to it is just another step into our pipeline process. Instead of doing, really, it's if we want to SBOM and the Ortelius CLI, it's two little steps that we add. In this case, we're going to go ahead and install our CLI. pip3 is the default on GitHub Actions. That's how come we're using pip versus pip3. We're going to run and resolve all of our environment variables, expose them up, and then do our upload over to Ortelius. So we're going to take that same component toml that we did before and we're going to reuse it in our action. One of the things we need to do is set up our secrets over on the GitHub side. So we can go ahead and log in over and make sure that we can upload to Quay. So in order to do that, I have to do one step on the GitHub side, which is assign the secrets to my new repository that I forked. Okay, now I have my Quay user ID and password all set. We're going to go ahead and check in our code, our changes. All right, and let's go ahead and push that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our actions. So if you go to your repo under actions, see that our build is actually running out here. And if you click on the details, we'll see where we're at. Okay, looks like our SBOM has been finished. Yep. And now we'll go ahead and update the component. Again, you're going to see a similar thing that we did from the command line ourselves outside of the GitHub action. We're going to have our information about our component, and we're going to resolve a bunch of that information and upload the details. So now with our GitHub action finished, if we actually go back over to Ortelius, we'll see that we still have that same application version because we did not increment the application version as part of our process. We could do that automatically, and we have our new component dependency right here. So let's look at our components, and we have our new component here. And we can see more details. We have our build number, build ID, some of our tags, our commits. Again, we're pulling in the README. Everything that we saw from the command line is, again, being pulled in automatically as part of that process. So with that, we're able to add into our pipeline process with just two simple steps. Simple step here can be added to pretty much any pipeline tool. So whether you're on Jenkins, Google Cloud Build, again, GitHub Actions, if you have Azure pipelines, we're just going to be adding in a few simple commands to make all this happen. So that's how we get the information from your pipeline tool through the Ortelius CLI and grab all those goodies and push them into the Ortelius UI so we can view them easily. We can see the SBOM, the vulnerabilities, the README, the Swagger. All that good information is available all in one place. And again, that's all going to aggregate up to the application level through all the microservices. So if you have 100 microservices, we will be showing those dependencies and all the SBOM data at that level, including all the CVE information that we find from those low-level dependencies. So that's it. If you need any help, reach out to me on Discord, and I will give you a hand getting this set up. Thank you very much.
All right, we are. Oh, I'm going to put myself back on video. All right, we did it. Now we know that Sasha has a working version of SIFT too.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I'm going to have, if you have Sasha, I'm going to start posting that question. Any question you have, let's just put it out on Discord. Steve had to step away. He had to jump on another call. So he'll answer it on Discord. And you know, don't be afraid to open up issues. Issues get you credit too. So if you break things, or if things are confusing and not working for you, be sure you open issues in GitHub so we can keep tracking those. Bugs are good. It means that people are fleshing some stuff out. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for attending. I so much appreciate all the effort everybody put into this product over the last 4 years. And I really look forward to an interesting 2025. Some of the chatting, we really do have the ability to, if someone had a Jenkins environment set up, to add Ortelius to their Jenkins environment. And if we had that Discord or that Slack connection, we could start notifying the Jenkins community when we found vulnerabilities. That'd be kind of a cool thing to do. It'd be cool if we did it for all of the CDF projects like Jenkins X, Jenkins and Spinnaker and Tecton. Get us some good visibility. Well, anyways, I hope you all have a fabulous year. I think that we have canceled most of the meetings coming up. Maybe some of the architecture calls are still going on, but thank you all and have a fabulous 2 weeks off. If that's what's happening for you, I'm going to try to take some time off, at least the last week of the year. But reach out if you have questions. Love all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
All right,
guys. Have a great
you're so
holiday.
cool.
See you guys
Great
next
holiday
year.
too. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah, have a
congratulations,
great holiday.
Arvin.
Christmas, Happy New
Thank
Year.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye bye. Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Happy
Eat lots of
Bye.
holidays.
food.